too, right? They love sports. They love being involved. They love
Yeah.
the corporations that create these teams. But getting our own leagues and doing things ourselves, we need to begin looking towards this direction, Sonia, because in the UK, we have an athletics coach in the UK, right? Who he was at a convention, right?
Yeah.
In 2022, he was at a sporting equals leadership event where he basically said, and this is Julian Starkey is this man's name, a ex athletics coach in the UK. He said basically, Sonia, usually when athletes start to be more specific in events, most Black athletes tend to edge towards sprinting and hurdling.
Yeah.
The Blacks are all good at running because they have to get away from their burglaries. Now, after he said this stupid shit, he said, I was dealing with a mental health illness at the time. And he right. Sonia, it's called white supremacy. That's the fucking mental health illness you was dealing with at the time. You see what I'm saying? So what should Black athletes and Black parents, and when they hear a story like this, how should they approach allowing their kids to play sports differently, putting so much onus on being an athlete? How should we approach this as Black folks looking at this type of shit?
Yeah. And it's one of those tightropes that's so hard to walk across, right? It's hard to sit on the fence and be like, oh, my child excels at this and really wants to do this, compared to, oh, what are the dangers? Not just the physical and mental danger of being a good athlete, but all of the things that go along with, are you going to be picked because you're the most popular one, or your parents are giving the most, donations?
Yeah.
All of those politics come into play. And then on top of having someone that says some utter, like, out the air bullshit, like, really, there's no factual basis behind this. And we're talking about someone who is from the UK, where supposedly crime is so much better than the United States.
Right? He talking about Negro burglaries.
Right. So you're talking about Negro burglars, and you can't use the data and statistics of the United States to back that comment. And then for your asinine comment to then be compounded with, oh, I think that I was going through a mental health crisis when I said that. That in and of itself, white supremacy is a mental health crisis. It is.
Right.
It is a system that allows folks to benefit from privilege. It allows folks to get away with saying dumbass shit. It allows folks to bubble up from and be forgiven for things that are just inhumane. There's no way that you would want someone making that comment about your child, right? And so that's, I think, where parents come into play, is that, one, we know that we can do these things without these so-called coaches that are leading these. They can be replaced, just like we as our players can be replaced, so can coaches. And I think that there is a power in the unification of parents to come together and say, I don't care what race you are. Had he said this about your child, you would not be okay with it. So because we're parents, we need to come together and make sure that this person is removed from this program, because it doesn't just offend the Black parents in the program. It should offend all parents in the program, because they kids still got to play with these Black kids.
Yep. And sometimes it's very important to point out these type of situations, Sonia, because this mentality is what causes us to lose our life in America. This is facts. Like, white people who feel like we're downtrodden, like we're prone to criminality, like we always up to no good. This is the same white man that'll see you close by his house or close by his car and pull out his goddamn gun and shoot you. It's the same mentality. They go hand in hand. You know what I mean? So we need to check these types of mentalities from athletic. And then, like, if you're Black and you have a child that's very, very talented, use that system, but make sure they're aware. Like talk to them about these kind of things so they don't internalize it, because we don't know what he was saying to Black athletes in private.
Right.
What kind of advice he was given based on his white supremacist mentality, right? So a part of this is equipping our young people with the rules of engagement when they're in this country. Like, you may have a white coach or a coach that's non-Black that's cheering for you, and he may seem like he got your back. Some of them are genuine, But don't be surprised when he come out the bag. We was just talking about the dude from Atlanta who riding around talking about, is this nigger town now?
Right.
Talking about Atlanta. It's the same dude that's going to wake up Monday morning and go train a black athlete.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes. And that's the thing that we just have to be very vigilant about paying attention to the signs, because there are a lot of allies in the world who don't have the bad intention of harming young people and harming people of color and harming women and harming those in these marginalized communities, the LGBTQ community. They don't have the intention. They also don't have the education and the intelligence around knowing what they're doing. And these exact same people will be the first one to be like, I'm so sorry. You know, when a person is legitimately, authentically apologetic about something that they said or did, you know the difference, right? When you come up with the excuse that, oh, I was suffering a mental health crisis, that's not apologetic because you didn't take ownership of what you said. But when and I'm going to use the example of my cheerleading coach at Burbank. I'm gonna call her name because I know that I still have a good relationship with her and she loves me and I love her. But Miss Richardson was my cheerleading coach at Burbank. And I can remember my junior year, some of the girls got into some trouble at cheer camp. And so her response was to kick them off the team, or no, they were on probation for 6 months, which meant during football season, they wouldn't have been able to cheer. They can come back during basketball season. And so these girls decided, we're going to create a smear campaign around her. She's a white woman, saying that she kicked us off the team because she was racist. And for the life of me, I was like, y'all was in that dorm room at Sac State with y'all. And so I had, as a leader, even back then, I was like, y'all really not about to do that, because the Burbank at the time was majority black and the whole cheerleading squad was black. So if it was racist, if it was racially motivated, she would have kicked us all off the team. But what we do know is that there were comments that she would make just because she didn't know about black culture. Like she would say, put your hair in a ponytail like this, or why can't y'all's ponytails look like this?
Yeah.
And we would be like, cause Miss Richardson, we ain't got white hair. You know, and she would be like, oh, well, for real, you can't, brush your hair and it'd be no, we can't.
Yep.
And when she knew that that was legitimately the case, she would back down. She was like, I'm so sorry. And I'm glad that you brought that to my attention. And she had been working with black kids in the inner city for forever, but no one had taken the time to tell her about black culture. And so eventually the girls were like, we're not coming back to cheer. Did that hurt us as a team? Absolutely. We were known for being like one of the most dominant, aggressive cheerleader squads in the city. Like, we got it in. We got trophies. We would go to competitions and we would take it. We knew we was taking it. But because, half our squad was banned for 6 months and they decided not to come back, it impacted the rest of us. And so we as a community have to say to ourselves, how do we recognize when we see someone who is maliciously trying to harm us? That's one thing. And two, not allowing our emotions to get the best of us and twist something that isn't something, and using the folks who want to be allies and want to be in spaces with us to our advantage, because she could have made life hell for those girls in so many other arenas, because we know that the education system has always been racist. She could have went to the principal and conflated what they really did at the campus, which she didn't have all the proof of. They did some other stuff that they didn't get busted for, but she didn't have proof of it. And she didn't conflate it, but she could have, because we've seen that. We've seen women yell rape, and all they were done was looked at in a way that they felt like, oh my God.
This is a fact, Sonia. This is a fact.
So that's when we as a community have to step up and say, let's put on our big girl panties and our big boy underwear and be like, okay, this is what happened. Stand on the truth of what happened, and then be courageous enough to say, this is how we can work this out. Right?
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's funny you bring that up, because I think as black folks, that's something we have to be wary of. Like, you have to recognize, am I looking at a true ally?
Yeah.
Am I looking at a racist person or an unaware person? And the interaction